Chapter 1: The Invisible Observer. Welcome to Synapse Daily. The jungle breathed with a hidden life. Rain fell like heavy iron curtains today. The heat was a physical, choking weight. Soldiers moved through the thick, green rot. Suddenly, a faint hum sliced the air. No pilot sat in that small cockpit. It was a phantom in silent flight. Death had finally found a brand new eye. The year was 1979 in retrospect. But the seeds were sown much earlier. DARPA moved in the very deep shadows. They wanted an eye that never blinked. Could machines actually replace human courage? The answer drifted high above the canopy. Silence was their greatest tactical weapon now. The ground below was a chaotic maze. Hidden trails twisted through the ancient trees. Men died for a single inch of dirt. But the drone saw the entire map. It watched the heartbeat of the forest. The machine felt no fear of death. It stayed steady in the monsoon winds. The hum was a song of change. Warfare was losing its human face today. Technicians watched from a distant, safe room. Grainy images flickered on cold glass screens. The jungle's secrets were no longer safe. An invisible observer claimed the humid sky. The age of the drone had arrived. History was being rewritten in the clouds. This was the birth of total surveillance. The ghosts now had wings of steel. Chapter 2: The Birth of DARPA's Dream. War demands innovation or brings total defeat. Washington stayed awake during the long nights. Project Quail began in secret, dark labs. Engineers chased a radical and deadly dream. They built birds made of cold, hard steel. Traditional planes were too easy as targets. Surface-to-air missiles hunted the very brave pilots. The sky was a graveyard for metal. Computers were still primitive and very slow. Yet, the vision remained crystal clear today. Unmanned flight was the future frontier now. What if a machine could see everything? The risk was high for the Pentagon. The reward was absolute and total control. They studied the flight of the dragonfly. They mirrored the silence of the owl. Innovation required blood, sweat, and gold. Prototypes crashed in the desert sands often. Each failure taught a vital, grim lesson. Weight was the enemy of the wings. Fuel was a constant, heavy physical burden. But DARPA never stopped the forward march. They wanted a God's view of war. A view without the cost of life. Intelligence was the most valuable wartime currency. The drone was the perfect bank robber. It stole secrets from the enemy's hands. The blueprints were drafted in silent rooms. The future was a drawing on paper. Soon, it would scream in the sky. The dream was becoming a metallic reality. Chapter 3: The Secret Jungle Trials. Testing happened far from any civilian eyes. Vietnam provided a brutal and living laboratory. The canopy was an impenetrable green wall. Sunlight rarely touched the muddy ground below. Traditional reconnaissance failed in this intense heat. DARPA deployed the early, experimental drone prototypes. These were tiny, loud, and very fragile. They looked like toys, but they killed. Soldiers called them the mechanical mosquitoes often. The moisture clogged the sensitive, tiny circuits. Engineers fought the thick mud and humidity. Every single flight was a desperate gamble. Failure meant losing highly classified American tech. Success meant seeing through the thick leaves. The drones struggled against the sudden storms. Wind tossed them like dry, autumn leaves. Engines choked on the heavy, wet air. But the cameras stayed focused and sharp. They captured movement on the dark trails. They spotted the smoke of hidden fires. The data was raw and very grainy. But it was better than any map. The jungle trials were a trial by fire. Metal met the limit of nature's power. The mosquito survived the harsh, green hell. It proved that machines could endure pain. The secret was out in the trees. The eyes were finally open and watching. The jungle could no longer hide secrets. Chapter 4: Remote Control Revolution. Radio waves carried the drone's digital soul. Operators sat miles away from the danger. They stared at grainy and flickering screens. It felt like playing a divine game. The joystick moved the mechanical, silver wings. Delayed signals made landing nearly impossible today. Crashing was a daily and expensive routine. Yet, the vital data began to flow. Images showed hidden trails and deep bunkers. The enemy didn't know they were watched. How do you hide from invisible ghosts? The invisible leash grew much stronger now. DARPA mastered the difficult art of distance. A pilot sat in a cool room. The drone bled in the hot sun. This was a revolution of the mind. The warrior was detached from the wound. Tactics shifted toward the remote control era. Orders traveled at the speed of light. The battlefield shrank into a small monitor. Every pixel was a potential target now. Technology bridged the gap of the miles. The operator became a ghost in the machine. They saw death without feeling the heat. This was the dawn of telepresence war. The joystick was the new, lethal sword. The revolution was quiet but very loud. Distance was the new shield for America. The machine obeyed the distant, silent hand. Chapter 5: Technical Nightmares. The drones were not yet perfect machines. Engines sputtered in the very thin air. Battery life lasted only a fleeting moment. The cameras were heavy and very bulky. Black and white film captured restless ghosts. Sometimes the signal simply vanished forever. $1 million fell into the mud. Recovery teams risked lives for cold scrap. The jungle swallowed the secret American metal. The humidity melted the delicate internal wiring. Was the cost worth the grand vision? DARPA pushed through the technical rot daily. They refined the heavy steel and glass. Heat was a constant and cruel enemy. Circuits fried under the intense tropical sun. Lubricants turned into thick, useless sludge. Lenses fogged up in the morning mist. The drones were blind for many hours. Technicians cursed the failing, weak hardware. Spare parts were rare in the field. They used tape and wire to fly. The ground crews worked in the rain. Their hands were stained with dark oil. Every launch was a prayer to science. Gravity pulled hard on the experimental wings. The vibrations tore the frames apart slowly. Noise levels were also a major problem. The enemy could hear the buzzing approach. Surprise was often lost in the wind. Engineers went back to the drawing board. They needed lighter alloys for the frame. They needed more reliable, steady power sources. The nightmare was a teacher of progress. Failure was the only path to success. Innovation bled through the broken circuits. Chapter 6: The Surveillance Breakthrough. One afternoon, the screen stayed very clear. The drone hovered over a moving convoy. Trucks moved like ants far below them. Commanders watched the movement in real time. This changed the rules of engagement forever. Artillery could strike with truly surgical precision. The fog of war started lifting slowly. Surveillance became a constant, digital stream. Human scouts were no longer completely alone. The eyes in the sky stayed fixed. Intelligence reached the base in mere seconds. The speed of war accelerated instantly now. The shadows had nowhere left to hide. Patterns emerged from the grainy video feed. Troop rotations became predictable and very clear. Supply lines were mapped with perfect detail. The drone was a silent, soaring snitch. It whispered secrets to the high command. Ambushes were spotted before they even happened. American lives were saved by a machine. The value of the program was proven. Skeptics finally became believers in the tech. Data was more powerful than heavy bombs. The sky was a strategic high ground. The breakthrough was a quiet, digital hum. Computers crunched the numbers of the war. The battlefield was now a dataset. Victory was a matter of visual clarity. The invisible became visible to the generals. The revolution was televised in the bunker. DARPA celebrated a major, secret victory. The eye had found its focus. Chapter 7: Psychological Warfare. Rumors spread among the dark jungle floor. Soldiers felt watched by the cold heavens. The hum of engines caused deep terror. Psychological pressure is a very silent killer. The enemy fired wildly at empty air. They wasted bullets on small, gray shadows. The drones were ghosts they couldn't hit. Knowing you are watched breaks human resolve. DARPA realized the drone's dual, hidden power. It gathered facts and planted deep fear. The mental battlefield was now fully conquered. Is privacy possible in modern, high-tech combat? The mind plays tricks in the silence. Every buzzing insect sounded like a drone. Sleep became impossible for the tired enemy. Paranoia grew like a thick, black vine. They hid under leaves, but felt naked. The drones were a constant, haunting presence. They were symbols of an unreachable power. You cannot kill what you cannot catch. The machine was an omen of doom. Fear traveled faster than the drone itself. The psychological impact was a massive force. Soldiers abandoned their posts in the night. They felt the gaze of a god. A god made of wires and lenses. The war was won in the mind. The hum was a weapon of exhaustion. The silence after the hum was worse. DARPA studied the effects of this dread. The drones were masters of the psyche. The shadow was a heavy, mental weight. Chapter 8: Data and Decisions. Generals loved the new, clear digital maps. They saw the battlefield from high above. Decisions happened with newfound, chilling speed. Targeting became a math problem solved easily. The drone provided the missing, vital variables. Coordinates were sent via rapid radio bursts. The jungle offered no more safe sanctuary. Data was the new, high ground advantage. DARPA proved the concept of Overwatch now. Every movement was logged and carefully analyzed. The machine mind was truly born then. The era of digital eyes had arrived. Commanders sat in air-conditioned, dark rooms. They moved units like pieces on glass. The lag between sight and action vanished. Efficiency was the new goal of war. The drone feed was the ultimate truth. Reports from the ground were often wrong. The eye in the sky never lied. It saw the reality of the mud. It saw the truth of the fire. Information was processed by a central hub. The decision tree became a fast algorithm. Risk was calculated by a cold computer. The human element was being slowly removed. War was becoming a clinical, clean operation. The data stream was a constant river. The generals drank deeply from the source. Power was the ability to see first. Knowledge was the power to strike fast. The battlefield was a giant, living grid. DARPA mapped the future of command. Chapter 9: The 1979 Integration. By 1979, the tech matured very fast. Computers became smaller and much tougher now. Surveillance systems were now standard, lethal tools. Vietnam had been the brutal, burning furnace. The lessons learned were written in blood. DARPA moved toward the Amber Project secretly. Drones were now sleek and very deadly. The transition from toys to weapons finished. Defense budgets poured into autonomous, cold flight. The 1970s ended with a robotic victory. The sky belonged to the machines today. Integrated circuits replaced the old, failing wires. Memory banks stored the maps of war. Reliability became the new, golden standard here. The drones could fly for many hours. They ignored the rain and the thick mist. Sensors could now see through the dark. Infrared eyes found the heat of men. The night was no longer a safe shield. DARPA refined the link between sky and land. The integration was seamless and very deep. Field commanders demanded more ghost eyes now. The demand outpaced the secret production lines. The drone was a permanent part of war. It was a tool of the modern age. Innovation was the only surviving, winning strategy. The 1979 report changed the world's view. Steel wings were the new global reality. The machine was an extension of command. It was the birth of the drone era. Chapter 10: Human Cost of Autonomy. Behind every drone was a tired human. Operators suffered unique and distant mental stress. They watched death from a very safe distance. The disconnect felt strange and deeply haunting. Technicians worked until their fingers bled daily. The unmanned war still required many men. Maintenance was a constant and losing battle. DARPA studied the human-machine interface very deeply. How much control should we actually keep? The moral questions began to surface slowly. The machine had no heartbeat or fear. The operator carried the heavy, mental weight. Guilt was a silent passenger in the room. Watching a target for days creates a bond. Then, the order to strike comes down. The screen flashes white and then goes dark. The operator stays in their quiet, dry chair. The target is gone into the red mud. This creates a scar on the human soul. Post-traumatic stress has a brand new face. It is the face of a flickering monitor. DARPA looked for ways to ease the burden. But the weight of life is always heavy. The distance does not make it easier. In some ways, the distance makes it worse. You see the details of a life lost. The human cost was hidden in the data. The soul struggles with the digital kill. Ethics were debated in the high halls. But the machines kept flying higher still. Chapter 11: The Global Shift. Other nations watched the sky very closely. The drone race began in earnest globally. Vietnam was the spark for everyone else. Russia and China started their secret labs. The monopoly on sky eyes was ending fast. Global security changed its fundamental, old shape. Borders became harder to hide behind now. Satellites and drones worked in perfect tandem. The world became a giant glass house. DARPA stayed ahead of the curve always. Innovation was the only surviving, winning strategy. The sky was crowded with invisible wings. Every nation wanted the divine, high view. Spying became a constant, robotic effort today. The rules of sovereignty were being ignored. A drone does not respect a borderline. It only respects the range of its fuel. The diplomatic tables were turned upside down. Secrets were the hardest things to keep. The global shift was a silent revolution. Arms deals now included crates of drones. The technology spread like a digital wildfire. No one wanted to be blind anymore. The race for autonomy was officially on. The victor would be the smartest machine. The world watched the watchers with fear. The balance of power shifted to the bits. Chapter 12: Legacy of the Mosquito. The early drones are now museum pieces. They look primitive compared to today's tech. But they are the direct, brave ancestors. The global hawk started right here, surely. The predator's DNA is in the Vietnam mud. DARPA's 1979 report changed everything forever now. The surveillance state was born back then. We live in that long shadow today. Small steps led to giant, digital leaps. The ghost eyes never truly closed again. They just became much more advanced now. The mosquito evolved into a soaring hawk. Its sting became a thunderous, guided missile. The legacy is one of total vision. We cannot imagine war without the drones. They are the silent partners of soldiers. They are the first to arrive today. They are the last to leave tomorrow. The lessons of 1979 are still vital. Data is still the king of battle. The ghost eyes are watching you now. The legacy is written in the clouds. The mosquito left a mark on history. It changed how we see the world. It changed how the world sees us. The revolution is complete and total now. Chapter 13: Final Frontier. The hum continues in the dark sky. DARPA looks toward the next golden century. AI now flies the wings completely alone. Vietnam was just the beginning, early stage. The synapse of war has fully evolved. We watch the watchers very carefully now. Thank you for joining Synapse Daily. History is a mirror of our tomorrow. The eyes are still looking down today. They hear the whisper of the wind. The digital front line is everywhere now. Your privacy is a memory of the past. The ghost eyes are part of life. Good night from the deep, digital front line. Stay curious, but stay very alert today. The next hum you hear is history. It is watching. It is always waiting. The sky is never truly empty anymore. Welcome to the age of the machine. The synapse is firing in the dark.